Welcome to The Golden Hour, a podcast about aging, dignity, and the people who refuse to let either be forgotten. I'm Liz Keller, case manager, licensed realtor, everyday mom and wife, and a lifelong advocate for seniors. Here, we'll share stories that matter, bust myths, and open up honest conversation about what aging with dignity really looks like. Because our seniors deserve better, because here, no senior is left behind. I'm so happy to have you. So grateful that you're here. So welcome. So first of all, give me an introduction. I know we talked a little bit prior to this Zoom about who you are and what you do, but if you can give me a rundown again, I'm really curious on what you did in that senior community space.
Yeah. So I accidentally ended up in senior living, just like I've heard pretty much every other person say the same thing that I have. I used to think my story was unique and realized it was not very quickly. Started off, I was going to school, getting my master's degree, and I thought I was going to tackle the stereotypical, I mean, everyone thinks they're going to go work for a clinic or the hospital. Senior living never crossed my mind. And so I did.
As a nurse, right? You said
as a nurse. I was more on the administrative side.
Okay.
And I just needed a part-time job. So I started working as a dietary aide while I was going to school. And the administrator pulled me aside and she's like, "What are you going to do when you graduate?" I'm like, to be honest, I have no idea. I just like the healthcare realm. She's like, "Why don't you go be an administrator?" I'm like, quite frankly, I don't even know what it is that you do. Like, I didn't have any scope of reference of what she did. So I went home and I looked into it, and lo and behold, that really seemed to be right up my alley, and started off my career at Care Initiatives. They hired me on as an administrator in training. And, you know, I was fresh out of school, pretty much knew nothing, if I'm being honest, knew nothing. And I was with them for a couple of years. And then I went to work at Deerfield in West
That's the
Des Moines.
fancy one. Very fancy, right?
Yes. Yeah. I went to work at Deerfield in West Des Moines. And I like to describe that experience of going from Care Initiatives, because it was just a 49-bed skilled. And it was in rural Iowa. And so we didn't have a ton of skilled. It was very low key to the big leagues real fast, because Deerfield has 5 levels of living. And I, quite frankly, had never managed any of them or most of them. So I was in probably what you would be considered over my head, but I learned so much and I grew so much in those 3 years. And I thought, okay, I'm ready to take the plunge. I decided I left and went to Cedar Ridge out in West Des Moines. They're owned by Pivotal. And I opened up that community in the middle of the pandemic. It was crazy.
Oh, wow.
It was an exhilarating experience, but adding the pandemic was just an extra layer of, anxiety and excitement all at once. But opening the community was something that I had never expected to experience. And
do you think that, like, your biggest growth, I can't stop thinking about you saying, like, everything that was in over your head, you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah.
To me, that's my whole life.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm always jumping into big things, and I've never been the kind of person that's like, wait a minute, I can't do that because I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. It's always been like, throw me in and I'll figure it out as I go.
Yes.
I don't need, there's no book or training.
No.
My college degree has not helped me. I mean,
no. The things that we teach in college, and that's why I've had the exact same mindset. It never has crossed my mind that I'm going to fail. And that probably just sounds so naive, because I don't really know what that even looks like. I just jump in and figure it out. So I'm the same way as you. I don't really know what it looks like to be fully prepared for something either, because you just go in head first and figure it out as you go. But
I almost feel like you're past if you go into something and you're already prepared and you know everything, to me, that says that you need to grow. It's time to grow into your 100%. Next stage of life.
And to be honest, that's exactly where I found myself. I had been doing, I was with Pivotal for 3 years. So I was about 10 years into being an administrator, and I realized, I used to want to climb that traditional ladder, go up to VP level, maybe regional. And then I realized along the way I had changed, and I was no longer feeling challenged, and I needed to do something different. And that was the most petrifying thing in the world, because when you think you're going to go this direction for so long, and then in your heart it's not the right fit, and you need to challenge and grow and do something different. So that's why I pivoted and started teaching. And because I thought, okay, I also saw how ill prepared, a lot of leaders are getting into senior living. And I'm just one of the lucky few that happened to survive and stay in it, because I figured out how to navigate that. But so many people get lost along the way, and I wanted to help contribute to trying to stop that, at least to some degree.
Well, let's talk about the turnover in these
Yeah.
spaces. It's
Yeah.
huge. And sadly what I'm seeing is specifically the people that I'm working with on that front end is the sales people. I forget what they all have different names in each community, but it's the person that's trying to get, their occupancy up.
Yeah.
Sadly, I think that those folks maybe know that it's not the greatest fit, their community for the resident that's coming in, but their livelihood depends on getting this senior citizen in the door, because you and everybody else, when you're in that position, says our occupancy has to go up or you have people on top. Everybody's coming down on the beds not being full or whatever, which is seemingly dangerous.
It is. It really is.
And I think that poor I get that the business has to get their beds filled or their rooms filled, their occupancy up. And I get that those people on top come down to you, and then you're going on to, the salesperson. But I feel like I'm seeing that it's getting to the point that we're doing things that aren't right for the residents, because all you're thinking about is getting them in the door. And that's what I love to tell people is, listen, if you go call all those places, they're all going to give you their strongest pitch on why it's the best spot for you.
Absolutely.
And me, I don't care. I don't have a dog in any of those people. They're all paying me the same per se.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure that you're going in the best spot. But I just think that, I want to hear from you on, what do you think now that you're out of it completely and you can be honest?
Yeah.
What do you think that should look like? Because to me, it's dangerous.
It is. And as I reflect back, I was so lucky with the 3 companies I worked for that I was never forced or told that I had to take whoever came my way, because some companies function like that. And that is not something to me that I could have ever aligned with as a leader, because first of all, you're questioning if I know my community well enough to meet that person's needs. And it's an individual journey. If you can meet that person's needs, you need to look at them holistically. But you also need to look at the skill sets of your team, and you have to know your team well enough as a leader to make sure you can meet the needs of that person, take the financial element out of it. And that's where so much of that is getting lost in translation, because a lot of times the directors of nursing or the admissions nurse or the administrator is being told, we need to increase our census. You need to take these people, unless it's an absolute, we can't and shouldn't. It's an extreme situation, but those are so rare that most leaders in the community setting are getting that option taken away from them because of census increases. But part of the way that I was able to navigate that as a leader, and because any of the bosses that I had could have said easily, we want you to run every no by us. But I knew the strengths of my team and who we could meet the needs of. And anytime that we weren't going to take someone, I always wanted to make sure and explain that to the families too, if we weren't going to take someone, why we couldn't, and why I was going to be doing them a disservice. And I think that is what is failing so often, because leaders in the community level are so worried about telling their regional or their vice president, we can't meet this person's needs. We're going to send them back out to the hospital. They're not going to make it. We have not prepared leaders to have those conversations very easily. And then we also have not done very well with leaders in senior living to have that conversation with the family member who thinks that they're going to move in just automatically. But we have to be transparent enough to tell people why it's not a good fit. And I love what you're saying, because not every person that you work with is going to be a good fit for a specific community. And that's completely okay. But senior living's kind of forgotten that that's okay. It's not about census. We're in the business of humans and people, and we have to take it back to that basic level.
I don't know if it's the people that are at the very top. I don't know. I mean, I need to have probably 5 years in this business before I find out where the pressure's really coming from, which we can assume that it's the very top, right? It's the people that are doing the books.
Absolutely, it is.
This
they
isn't
definitely
working.
play a role in it.
Right. Right. And so, they would fight back that, yeah, it's humans, but also, we also have bills to pay too. So I get their position, but I also get where we're losing the point of these places as to being the best place and the best fit. So then they're not moving. I mean, how many times have people had to move because they went into the wrong spot? And
every day.
Right. It just wasn't good. I have a client right now that she actually went and found her community before I got in front of her. As a realtor, you don't just let go of listings unless there's like something that's like way too much, or you're like way in over your head on something. We don't usually just like let money go by the wayside. And when this realtor called and said, this is just too much for me, I can't handle this, I was like, okay, this is like a lot more, whatever it is. Now that I dug in, and my client is like dead set on going to this place that is just independent living. That's it. That's all it is. And she clearly has memory issues. Clearly. There was another realtor involved who called, and she was like, she is very confused. I don't think she knows what's going on. She doesn't know who's who. She doesn't know what day it is. You're the perfect fit for her, because I would be in over my head as well. But this other agent, the one that actually called me, is friends with the sales gal at this independent place. And so they're claiming she has no memory problems and that she's just fine. And anytime we mention that there's any memory problems, this sales girl goes defensive. Insanely defensive. She even has her friend speaking for her, the realtor, who's like, no, I've never had any issues, nothing at all. I don't know what you guys are talking. She always knows what's going on. The client is forgetful every single day. She has a daughter who, in my opinion, is stealing from her $16,000. And that's if she needs Medicaid in the next 5 years, that's gonna come back to bite them. She should not be a home alone. She, has said that she's so lonely, and she's thought about committing suicide. So she went to Broadlawns, and she loved it at Broadlawns because she had someone to talk to. I don't know what to do, because she is hellbent, my client, that she's going to this place because she loves the flowers. Someone told her that I think that there's memory issues, and she was sweet. She was like, no, I don't have memory issues. I'm just very anxious right now. And even though when I told her, because they weren't going to let her move in until December because we had to get the house sold first, which doesn't work. You cannot sell a house with someone that has memory issues in the house. And they just told her to get in her car and go down the street. Whenever you have buyers come, just get in your car and go down the street with your cat. She could not get her cat in a kennel because she has the torn rotator cuff or something, and she's with a walker. The whole thing is just crazy. There's not one person is in her corner, and it's frustrating because she's already signed the lease and paid the deposit, and these guys are just like not willing to admit that she has memory issues, and this is, and independent living is not appropriate. It's even on a main road. Do I think she's gonna walk out? Not yet, but like so when I went to her house to tell her last week, I'm like, hey, I got good news. I got you into this place. We're gonna move next week, because she should not be. To me, anything is safer than where she's at right now. She was so excited. She was like, I think there's angels in here. I've been praying. I can't believe you're doing this to get me out of this situation. I need out of here. I'm so lonely. She was so happy. She was crying. And then the next day I went over there, and she had no idea. She was like, wait, I'm moving next week? Had no clue. And I said that to the company. I'm like, she didn't have any idea. And they were like, oh, maybe you weren't clear with her yesterday.
Unfortunately, this is such a common situation, and it's so sad how common it is that that goes back to we need to do what is right for each resident, because at the end of the day, your heart's in the right place trying to place her where she needs. And so oftentimes, communities end up failing a resident because they take on this responsibility that they shouldn't have absorbed in the first place. And, if she's that insistent, the only thing that could maybe even make her successful with having regular home care services in that setting, if she is that set on it. But that right there, though, that scenario is just at the fundamental basis of so much that's happening in senior living. And that scares leaders away. And it scares good people wanting to work in senior living like yourself and like wanting to do the right thing for the person. A lot of people run away because they feel like they're fighting this battle of people who just want to pluck residents in and then run. And that's hard to navigate through because ethically speaking and morally, that's not how most of us want the situation to go. We want to do what's right. But it is such a dynamic, difficult scenario when you can see that someone is going to fail. It's inevitable. And it's hard to watch that.
Yeah, it is. And Tasha on my team knows everything Medicaid. And so she said, okay, at the very least, maybe we could get her some home health aides that go in there and just check up on her. But, she's going to run out of money eventually and she's going to need Medicaid. And now we have this daughter who's taking $6,000 to have a stump removed from her yard. The stump is not an emergency. And to have $10,000 to have a driveway cemented that has not been cemented for 6 years now. So it's, again, not another...
Why is it relevant now? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and then when I talked to the daughter about it, she's just like, I don't care. This is what she told me yesterday. I'm Switzerland. I'm just staying out all of it. I'm Switzerland. And I was like, you're not Switzerland. No. This is your mom. Mm-hmm. And you can't have her money. Mm-hmm. But the mom is like, no, she gets my money and there's nothing stopping me because she needs it. So it's just like one thing after another. And I have to decide on like, at what point is it not worth fighting for me and just making sure that anything better than my client living in her house by herself with suicidal thoughts. But that's where is so hard being on the business side where you're at too, because your heart is in it. But at what point do you feel like it's no longer in alignment with who you are and what your values are? And that's always one of the values that I struggled with too, is I didn't want to ever assume the care for someone and then fail them because I didn't have the ability to have those boundaries and say, this is not in alignment with what I can provide, as an administrator. But so many people, it's just easier to go with the flow and assume it's going to be okay, even if it's not. You're in a tough position where it's trying to decide if it's even alignment with your business values and who you are as a person. And that's really what we're seeing so much of in senior living is, if it starts to question your ethical and moral compass, a lot of people walk away and get burned out because that's day after day dealing with these situations. There's no perfect way to navigate it, but you want to do the best that you can for that person. And sometimes that means not moving that person in. But a lot of companies have a hard time with that reality. Right. I mean, at this point, it's hard because, and as you know, you were fighting family members who are on the gravy train all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we also have the communities moving clients and residents in that have no business being in their community. Yeah. And like that, there's nobody actually spearheading this. And if the wrong person gets ahead of the resident before, someone that actually has their best interest in mind, I think that it's all downhill from there. And they don't even realize how being taken advantage of that they are.
At that point, they're just thinking that they're getting the assistance that they need. And so much of our roles in senior living, I didn't realize this until I got into the profession and after a couple of years, is so much education based. Because the families, so many of them have no idea where to even start. They have genuinely no idea. I bet you spend just as much in your day as I did educating families and residents on how to navigate this system, because it is so difficult. It's not cut and dry, and everyone's needs are so different. And that is one thing that I think I underestimated when I got into it. I had no idea how much education there would be, but senior living tends to also be very reactive rather than being proactive. This gal, if she had memory care issues, probably needed help a few years ago, quite frankly. Like, this is now just becoming to the point where it has to be dealt with because it's to this point that it needs to be handled now. Probably should have been dealt with in theory 3 to 5 years ago. But that is so common. Families don't know, or they think it's okay, and then until it's not okay. And then that's where we become the problem solvers. And you hope that you're paired with someone that is looking out for the best interests financially and medically for your family, but that's not always the case, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's sometimes part of the problem. I will say that I don't actually do much educating to families. It's more to the clients because the families are usually tapped out, and rightfully
Yeah.
so. I think it's okay for families to tap out and say, I don't know how to do this. It's a lot. I would rather have a professional navigate this and tell me what my choices are. And there's very little families that have the time or the capacity to be able to take on the load of navigating this process. And because it's very difficult. So I think my educating is actually all on here. So people can get on here and watch different things that I'm talking about and having different experts, because that's kind of where the education is. Once we're involved, it's just like we've taken the wheel and we're now letting them know, like, okay, so we do a whole, beginning session of learning about the resident and their family and what their financial is and all of the things. But from there, I don't think the family really wants to be educated, because I think they've tried so much that they're just like, hands off, I can't do this.
Please handle it.
Yes, we just give them their options, tell them why we came to those. And instead of giving them 30 different communities to go look at, because those 30 are not appropriate, we give them like 3. And this is why we think these 3 are the best from whatever we found.
You've done the vetting.
Yeah. So it's not so much on that. It's more like we just tell them what we'll do for them, everything, and then give them our package pricing. Everybody has different pricing for their packaging because everybody has a different journey, different needs. Yeah. So when you talk about education, let's talk about who it is that you're actually educating. It sounds like you are educating administrators only, or who is it that you're educating?
So when I was in the community setting, I spent a lot of time educating families and residents, or even, some of my team, because if they had not dealt with how to navigate these difficult conversations, because we had a pretty high skilled population. So a lot of people would come in and need that rehabilitative side. And then where the difficulty would come in is telling people that our suggestion and therapy suggestion was for them not to go back home. So then that's when we would start to explore assisted living, independent living, even long-term care. So when I was in the community setting, I did so much of that educating, just because people don't know what the different levels of living look like, what they can offer, how to identify when it's time for mom or dad to go to a retirement community. But now that I'm on the outside, so much of my focus of educating has been on the leaders within the senior living communities, because a lot of, kind of like what we talked about, a lot of learning of how to navigate these scenarios is trial by fire. And that's not always the most effective way. We fail so many leaders with how to navigate these scenarios effectively because we've not given them the tools to know what sorts of questions to ask, what things to look for, how to effectively communicate even a really difficult message. Some people don't love to do that. They don't want to tell the families no, or these are the problems I'm seeing, these are the reservations I have. So just helping leaders to feel better equipped on how to have these difficult conversations. And then the goal ultimately, after I've trained or sat with someone for a while, is to make these situations like what you're talking about a little easier for you to be able to work with the community to find the right place setting for people. Because a lot of the leaders in senior living just haven't necessarily been given the tools, or they don't know how to navigate these complex situations to do right by the resident.
It's crazy to me because I am completely opposite in the way that I struggle. If I see something, I struggle not to say something. Like sometimes my husband is like, you don't need to talk about that. You don't need to.
That was not the time.
Yeah. But like I was struggling not to go say something, where I think like opposite, other people are like, they struggle, like how are they gonna find the nerve, like you're saying, to 100%. Have these conversations where I'm losing sleep because I can't have it, and they're losing sleep because they don't know how to. So
It's a skill set that you have definitely honed, because it's senior living is such a vulnerable and difficult time in people's lives. And sometimes especially when we start talking about hospice and palliative care, you're with someone till the end sometimes. So these are difficult, intricate conversations, but a lot of people have a difficult time navigating them, or how to have them. One of the other conversations that was so hard for me to help teach people in the community level, but also now that I'm out of it, it's still hard for me to help people understand when the time is to have that conversation of transitioning to levels of care. Because just because someone moves in independent doesn't mean that's the end all be all. In a few years' time, they're going to likely need to move. So we need to start having those conversations proactively, and working with teams like yours to help prepare people rather than being scared to have those conversations. But a lot of people don't necessarily like upsetting the apple cart for someone, which is a lot of the reason that yeses are said to people that shouldn't be moving into a specific community or level of living, because it is hard sometimes to say no, which is really in theory our job, because we should be, looking out and advocating for that person's individual needs. But we're not always great at that at leaders in senior living, which is really kind of scary and unfortunate.
Yeah, and I think that the people that are at the lower levels that don't have the training, like I don't know what training these like sales people, what do we call them? Community people?
Some are community liaisons, some are sales specialists, things like that.
Whatever special name that they have at that community. I would love to know what education and what like actual medical and health education they're doing before they're going out and just recruiting anybody in, because they're, and I get it, because their livelihood matters. This is how they feed their families, and if they're not getting their commission or whatever for their occupancy, then they're struggling too. So how do we change that? And then at the upper level, it's difficult, because if you don't have a commission-based structure and you don't have a little bit of motivation for those salespeople to get people, to get residents in the door, people will be like, oh, Ms. Smith didn't like it. So when they hardly tried, they're just sitting there collecting their check. And so I get it on all of the different levels, but removing all of that, I think we're forgetting that we need to be having the residents'
needs put first.
Yes, best interest put first. And I don't know how to do that to make sure that, places aren't going into foreclosure, but we're not making wrong decisions.
Yeah. What I found always worked, and the only reason I know that this works is because I did this at every place I worked, with every clinical team I worked with. The more apt I was for my team to tell the truth on what we could and couldn't do really worked out in our favor, because oftentimes what we saw happen, it was a ripple effect. People would then go out into the community and they would send their friends. The word of mouth in senior living marketing method is very strong and very intense. And our core community is so small, especially here in Des Moines, or in the metro area, that if we were constantly doing right by the residents and they had a successful rehabilitative stay, or even if they needed respite care, people would come back and then they would send their friends, because we were doing the right thing. And that sounds so basic, but because so many places don't do that, all of them kind of run together. The ones that do it well and have these difficult conversations tend to not struggle for occupancy, because they know they're going to come get good care with you. They can trust you, and they're going to send their friends. And so if we can honestly just dial it back to making sure that the salespeople know that, hey, if this sale doesn't go through, it's okay. If you're not going to, it is okay. There will be another family. There will be another phone call. But we get so lost in the obsession with filling it in census-based conversations that we really lose sight of, if we do the right thing every single day, the best that we can, that fills our building, because word of mouth is super powerful in this industry. And so it's so simple, but we just have to remember that we have to give these salespeople the permission to say, this is probably not a good fit. And that's okay. But we have stripped a lot of those positions, those marketing directors, people like that. We've stripped a lot of that from them to be able to have that determination, and So we have to be able to take it simplistically back to the point of we're honest with people, we give good quality care, and then that ripple effect will help build a community. It just happens. It does it. And, people are so happy with, and your team is happy. So not only is your resident happy, but your employees are happy. And then it becomes just this incredible community because you're constantly prioritizing doing the right thing. And that's the only way this industry is going to heal, is if we keep doing that.
Well, it needs to heal before the next 20 years when all of the, the boomers become, and I love how the boomers right now, they're so cute. They keep saying, I'm never doing that. Yeah, sir.
This current generation said that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to happen because everybody is going to get to the point where they need help. They need someone to take care of them in whatever capacity. So you better buckle up there, buddy, because I love that you're doing well right now. But when you need somewhere to go, you're going to need somewhere to go. And okay, so you're going in and you're training these spaces. Who is it hiring you, and what is it the communities that are saying, hey, Malinda, we need you to come in and do a training for our whole community? That's what's happening?
Sometimes it's the leader themselves, like the administrator or the executive director or director of nursing will come in and say, hey, I have some personal growth in this area that I'm needing help with. I'm needing help navigating difficult conversations. Sit down and help me navigate that. Other times, it's communities that the administrator will reach out and say, hey, my whole leadership team has some problems. I need you to help me to navigate, how we have better effective communication strategies, things like that. And so sometimes it just depends. It will be individuals themselves. Sometimes it will be someone from like home office who is wanting to shift the culture of that community. So, some of these communities that you're talking about that need a reality check on who they're admitting and how they're caring for people, sometimes they need a restart on their culture and they need to fix it from, the bottom up and top down. And so sometimes I get calls from home office too to come in and help lead workshops and trainings to do that too, because these are people's lives we're dealing with here, and we have to remember how serious this is. And sometimes we get so lost, after people have been doing this for years. Some people just get lost in that sauce and start to go through the motions, and that's not the way that we should approach this day to day.
No, and my pet peeve is we've always done it this way.
Yes.
If anyone ever says that to me, I shut it down immediately, and I always say, then it's time to evolve. If you're saying this, we have not evolved, and with times changing, health changing, technology changing, we don't say that anymore. We don't say we've always
unfortunately hear that phrase in senior living a lot. This is how it's always been done. And I will say, after I left working in the community setting, I found a huge community, I'm going to call us a grassroots movement, of people like myself that have left but are trying to heal the industry by doing it the right way. Because senior living, there is this mindset of we've always done it this way, we've always prioritized the census, let's meet our financials, but we might be iffy on our patient outcomes, versus the people like us that are wanting everyone to realize the human-centeredness of this and figuring out how to care for our staff and care for the resident at the same time. So you will hear that a lot, but there are people out there that are trying to stop that narrative because it has been like that for a long time. So I think it's great that you're trying to disrupt the status quo, because senior living does need that. It needs disrupted.
Yeah. Oh, it's so unhealthy. If it's like it feels a little dog eat dog, and I don't love it. And like you had said, if community A gets in the habit of saying, hey, this resident isn't the best fit for us for whatever reason, we think that she has some memory care needs.
Yeah.
I think that she would be a better fit over here at a completely different space.
100%.
B, if we start that trend and we're just really pushing people in the direction that we think they should go, it's going to become like more common for that to happen. And so you're almost the black sheep if you're not doing that.
Absolutely. We actually did that all the time. If we saw because we didn't have memory care on site at any place that I've ever worked. And the second we saw that and we realized what was going to be the issue, or in 6 months, if we were telling the family, this is no longer working, and we know we just spent all of this big chunk of money moving in here, but now we're going to ask you to move again. We wouldn't do that. We would say, here's a list of free communities that you can call. These would be better fits. And we would call the community and say, we're sending the people your way. And we would turn people away because it was the right thing to do. But then almost 9 times out of 10, we'd get calls because the family respected that we did the right thing from the get-go, and they told their friends about it, who then sent their families here. And so doing the right thing and building those connections needs to happen. And we have to prioritize, instead of trying to build that census, where we're placing that person for the long haul, not just for 2-3 months. The goal should be us to try to pair people as best as we can for them to not have to continue to move again.
Moving is hard.
Terrible. It is
horrible. And my biggest thing is, like, I will say that stepping into this, I will not just go with the flow of anything, but and disrupting it per what we said. I cannot get on board with what I've learned over the last, 9 months now, is most places have our 2-year private pay. And then after we've paid our 2 years, then we're grandfathered in and we can start with Medicaid.
Yes.
However, oh my God, if we burn through this private pay money, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, they're not a good fit here for whatever reason or not. Oh, we've noticed they have some memory issues. They've had the memory issues for the full 2 years. But now we're going to move over to Medicaid, and we're not going to get paid as much. So now they have memory care issues, and now we've got to go find a place for them that will accept Medicaid right away, and it's not as nice. It's dingy. Nope. They're no longer grandfathered in. They've paid their... I cannot get on board with that. And I don't understand how someone can go to bed and sleep well knowing that they did that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. That's the ethical and moral piece that a lot of people cannot stomach any longer in senior living, because we're not doing the right thing. And the second that you become complacent in that way and think it is okay to do that, people need to reevaluate their career path, because families oftentimes, they don't know how to have these conversations. They're reliant on us to educate them. And so if we're not having these difficult conversations up front, we're failing people. We are failing people, and we're running through their funds unnecessarily and then asking people to move. That is a
not okay.
ethically wrong thing to do. And this is not the profession for you. But unfortunately, this happens so frequently. It's so common.
Right. That's why I'm doing this podcast, is because, like, it's stopping. Yeah. I'm going to make sure, like, it is my mission to make sure this stops, because this is so wrong on so many levels. Of these people only have 2 years of private pay money, and it is not okay that we're burning it out, and then all of a sudden we find a problem and we need you to move. Like, what are we doing? That is not okay. But yeah, that's just a part of me, is I have always been the person that's like, well, no, we're not going to just, like, let that one slide, because we don't want to have,
we've always done it this way.
Yes. Or we don't want to have a hard conversation. Or we don't want to make our boss mad because of whatever reason. I think I've always been the person that, I don't know if I could ever work under someone, because I am the person that will upset my boss because I don't understand something.
You're not going to comply in every area.
Yeah.
And that's just inevitable.
And a part of it's like, I'm willing to comply if you justify to me why we're doing this.
Sure, absolutely.
But if you can't give me a reason for this system that's just seemingly like a compliant, we've always done it this way system, that I'm not doing it.
Yeah. The thing that I always liked for the people that I worked for, I never had to justify to them, or part of the narrative was never the money piece either, because I didn't ever want to work for a company that was just so obsessed with the financial element of it that they forgot to look at the person. And so I always appreciated in my conversations, if I had an issue or my clinical director had an issue with this person, it never revolved around the monetary aspect. It was always about the health of the person and could we meet their needs. And so that's the other thing, is the financials matter too, but senior living has just continually prioritized that financial piece, and we need to remember the human elements of it. And the saddest part about all of this is that senior living is actually a really incredible industry. And it kind of ruins you for anything else. And that's part of the reason when I left being an administrator, I couldn't just walk away, because it leaves this lasting impact on you. And you're never going to find that void in any other field. But it has so much that needs repaired. And we have to be better about it. And it's only going to take people like us and people that are willing to say, hey, this isn't right. Let's figure out a more effective way for that person. That's the only way we're going to make this industry better and stop some of the turnover and improve morale and all of those things. I mean, it's the only way it's going to heal, honestly.
Yeah, you have to have people speak up. You're exactly right. And I don't want, if anyone is watching this, I don't want everyone to think that every community is bad. It's not. There's some communities that I would
Some are wonderful.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I'm counting down my days until I'm old enough to be there.
Yeah, because the stellar ones. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I cannot get over how great. And I've gotten a good vibe when I go in there.
Absolutely.
They offer us lunch.
Yep.
It's so good. And you can tell. And I will say that there are places that we have toured that you will not hear me talk about. I will not refer them. Nope, I had a bad experience, and I wouldn't put my own grandma there. So I won't throw them under the bus. I won't talk badly about them, but they will certainly
Those
not be getting.
Do exist.
Yeah, they will not be getting any referrals from me. And some of them are, willing to pay us just as much as the other ones. Some of them, are willing to pay us more.
Absolutely.
I will never be. So to your point, when I was in real estate, there were builders that would pay real estate agents more to bring buyers to them. There was like builder incentives. Mm-hmm. So bring your buyers here. I called it hush money. And it's the same thing in this space is those that are willing to pay us more. There's a reason, and it's going to be called hush money per se. And I won't fall for it. For it. In my company, for private pay people, we're actually not expensive at all because the communities pay us. And so I won't say that we're expensive. However, we are expensive in the space of like Medicaid and all of that stuff, because we are kind of bulldogs. We are here to make sure that you get what you need, that you get your Medicaid, you're not being left out to dry, that you're where you go. And we will take care of you and make sure that everything is good. And I don't know of another company that will do that. There are free resources. You and I both know about all the free resources out there. And those are an option.
But yeah, they are. But sometimes, people are having to navigate them themselves and they don't know how. And it's the Medicaid world is scary for people. They don't know how to navigate it or what their rights are or where they can go. And so, I mean, it's great that you're helping people navigate that.
Oh, even that they can appeal it. They don't know any of these things. It's literally crazy to me that they're just like, oh, the DHS will say like, oh, that the site is self-explanatory. Excuse me, government. There is nothing self-explanatory about your websites at all, ever. Yeah. And leaving these, they're not even, the senior citizens aren't even good with, computers per se or technology.
So for them to navigate this process is even more intimidating, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's crazy to me, but I love that you're out educating people and doing the right thing. And it's my prayer that we're able to cause enough ruckus, chaos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're not even trying to do anyone bad, not the senior communities.
No.
Not the families.
It's doing the right thing. But honestly, it helps the community if we can do this better. And it helps the resident. It's a win-win for everyone. But we have to shift our thought processes and we have to be better in our day-to-day actions if we're going to do it. And we have to stop saying we've always done it this way. I always give the example that senior living is like a hamster on a wheel. It's just all it knows is its own chaos and it doesn't know to ever jump off of it. It's scared to jump off because it doesn't know what that looks like. We need to get off of the hamster wheel of chaos in senior living in order for this industry to be better, like I know it can be. It can be amazing. It's already a good place to work. It can be incredible if we get off the hamster wheel of chaos.
Yeah, and just do the right thing rather than putting them. Yeah, absolutely. Who is the person that would be an ideal client for you to give you a call?
Any administrators, executive directors, regional vice presidents. I've had people from the hospitals, even the clinics call me because even though they're in a different type setting, leadership is still a problem there, and prioritizing patients and creating a healthy culture is still a problem for them too. So really any leadership role within the healthcare realm I have been able to work with. It's been even outside of senior living because I work with that specific entity and look at their data to figure out what they really need so we can fix things from the root cause. The other thing too is I don't just fix surface level problems. I want to get to the root cause of it so that the problem heals like it should for the long haul. But administrators, executive directors, directors of nursing, all those people are who I hear from the most.
Yeah, that's good to know, because they need to be ready that when you come in, we're not going to just fix the surface. I mean,
No.
I think that's something that you could do daily. It's really digging down. So if someone it's an insurance thing. For example, if, we can't do this because insurance won't pay for it or whatever, the expectation is never going to be that the hospital or the community just eats the money, because we know that's not possible as well.
Yeah.
What are your solutions when those things come up? Like, okay, we've pulled back all the layers of the onion here, and it's coming down to we're not able to get paid to do the right thing. What is your solution for that typically?
Oftentimes when we've had patients that have had a complex type of insurance, or, if they don't have the funds to be able to live somewhere, like if our community was asking for, let's say, for example, like 2 years of private pay funds up front, like you said earlier. If I see a family is already going to struggle with that insurance piece of it, and they're not going to get the coverage they need, or they're already going to be lacking in the funds, again, it goes back to that conversation of, let's find a community that can meet your financial needs, will take your insurance, and we help them navigate that process. Because I would, like we've said, a lot of communities are okay taking someone for the short temporary period of time, running through their funds, or assuming the insurance will cover it all to find out they won't, and then they have this huge bill. So we need to do that work up front to educate on the financial and the insurance piece of it too, because a lot of families, that's the other piece. Insurance is something I would have never guessed I would have to be so well versed with in my role. But people are petrified of it, and they don't understand what their coverage looks like, whether they're traditional Medicare, an HMO plan, or Medicaid, it doesn't matter. People are not well versed with it. And so much of our jobs have to be about educating about insurance too, because people don't understand the coverage they have. And so that's where that uncomfortable conversation comes in. I had it so many times, if someone only had a few months worth of funds, and they were maybe on the cusp of being medically complex, I would just say, listen, for these number of reasons, I knew that we were going to fail them. I would help them find another location that could meet their needs and explain the situation to them. So it goes back to when I'd have those complex scenarios, over what insurance would or wouldn't cover, I would try to have that conversation up front so people didn't expect that it would be covered by insurance or be shocked when they saw a bill. That is the worst feeling in the world, when a family member sees an $8,000 bill that they thought that was going to be covered by insurance, and then we didn't do our due diligence to communicate that. That is the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
And so it comes back to that transparency up front and trying to help that person navigate what type of insurance coverage they have. And if we only had a couple of situations we had to work through with payment plans, sometimes the community has to be flexible to help this person pay off their bill. And it may take 20 years for them to pay off this bill, but we need to do our due diligence to educate and help them understand their insurance up front, so that we can eliminate these surprise costs that take people's breath away.
Well, to me, it's great. This is what's nuts to me, and I know you're going to agree. If someone is like, okay, we know that this is going to happen, and in 12 months they are going to get stuck with a $12,000 bill, but we'll have that conversation then.
No, we should have that now. That's a terrible time to have that.
That dumpster fire of then in 12 months is going to, the dumpster fire is going to be 3 times the size.
It is heavy. It's a heavy conversation to have. Yes.
The reviews are going to go wild in all of the wrong direction.
Yep.
It's going to be bad. And it happens in all space. It happens in real estate too. And there's, realtors that won't say things because they're afraid to tell their client. And I'm like, so your expectation is that you're going to tell them down the road when something bad happens that like you knew about this, then they are going to be so mad at you for having known this information, withholding it, but waiting until later to tell them. And then they're going to be super pissed rather than just the hard conversation now.
Yes,
they're
just
going to
have it now.
Yeah, they're going to be frustrated. They're going to be upset, but they're going to be thankful. Once they leave and walk away, they're going to be like, okay, this could have gone bad. I'm upset for whatever reason, but I'm glad that we found this out now.
Yes.
And not until months.
Yes.
I
And
think
it
that's
goes
common
back
sense.
to that. It's such a common, it is hard to have that conversation, but I did exactly what you did. I would dread the day that in 8 months that I bought myself time, I would doomsday think, how am I going to navigate this then if I already don't want to have this conversation now? They're only going to just tack on 8 months more of being mad at me at this point, and I'm going to look like the bad person in this situation because I am the bad person in the situation. I knew and didn't do my due diligence.
Right.
And so it goes back to that difficult conversation and educating them. And it's not easy to do, but you can save yourself a lot of heartache and them a lot of heartache down the road by just being transparent.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I think that's what I actually love about my company is that I'm willing to have all of these conversations and be completely transparent because I'm not getting paid if you only go here or here or here.
Sure.
Here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whatever community you go to is going to pay me for bringing you to them.
Yeah.
And so I don't have a favorite in mind.
Yeah.
I'm not in bed with any of these people.
Mhm.
And so I am literally looking out for your best interest. And no matter where you go, I will still be able to feed my children.
Yeah.
And what is sad to me is the one, the salespeople that are in those spaces, they don't have that same thing. So they're going to do anything to get you in the door. They're going to forget to tell you things. They're going to forget. So
Yep.
it's very sad. And I think that's what I love most about Golden Concierge, that there's no skin in the
What
game
you
in
see
any
is
certain
what
space.
you get. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that, it's full transparency and they know exactly what to expect from you. Whether that conversation, sometimes that message is painful and sometimes is wonderful. It's the transparency is probably what families value the most.
In the lying by omission. So like if you go into one of those spaces and you don't ask a question and they're like, well, they didn't ask me about that.
See, that's equally as wrong. We are obligated to try to give them. See, a lot of leaders don't realize that they are hurting themselves when they're not doing that. It's not saving anyone because it is going to come out eventually, or it is going to hurt you that you didn't, be open and honest. And so it's always shocking to me that people think that is sometimes the easier route. That is the worst route because when you get caught, it hurts. It's your pride at stake and your humility that's being questioned, honestly.
Right. And is their boss going to have their back when, you know what I mean? When it's time to throw someone
not. Yeah.
Right. When it's time to throw someone under the rug, they're like, the boss is like, I don't know why sales lady didn't tell you that. That's something she should have told you.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they had all that pressure.
That I've experienced with salespeople, sometimes they're scared to say, I don't know. And there is no shame in saying, I don't know. Let me go find out from my clinical leader. I don't know. Let me go ask the business office manager about this. But salespeople oftentimes get so caught up in the moment and trying to connect with that person that they overcommit or they don't verify that their information is correct. And then that ends up landing on someone else's plate to try to fix and remedy with this family because someone misspoke. There is no shame in saying, I don't know. It is okay to say that.
Yeah.
But we sometimes shame people into feeling like saying, I don't know is not okay when it is actually completely okay.
Yeah. And if that's like one of the biggest lessons that you teach when you go out to those spaces, it is okay to say that and say, I don't know, but I'm going to go find the answer.
I will let you know. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Give me 24 hours and I will have the answer to that question.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a different world. And I truly hope that we're able to shift it before this large wave of senior citizens start needing the space.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it becomes just...
We're trying to just survive rather than that. We have time right now to fix some of these processes. But it's going to take more than just a few people wanting to fix it. We need to get more people on board to want to help heal their communities in order to prepare ourselves for the next wave of seniors coming our way. We have time to fix it, but we need to start it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And just making sure that we're doing the right thing. And I truly believe that if you take care of the people, they will take care of you.
Yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
for the senior communities too. Like if you take care of the people, it will come back around to you.
Yeah. Agreed.
Always. Yes. So this is really good. I would love if you have any seminars or if you hold any trainings, that's something that I would love to be able to come or stream or
Yeah,
whatever to
absolutely.
always learning, always evolving.
Yeah.
Because that's what we have to do.
I have a program that I partnered with Grandview University, and they're really good on making this an affordable training for people too. It's about mentor coaching and leadership development, and I went into it after I was pretty lost after I left senior living, because I did that for 10 years, and to walk away from something that you've done for your whole life felt so weird. But I'll send you the information because it was pretty transformative for me, and just having that growth mindset. This helped feed that part of me. And so I know that that's definitely something that you probably also prioritize too, especially being in a new industry.
Yeah. Yeah. Newish. Yes. I mean, I've kind of like come and go from it, but
Yeah.
now it's a whole different.
Dove in head first. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot more confidence now. Like way
Sure.
back in 2006, 20 years ago almost, I was 18. I didn't have the confidence that I need to, when I saw something, say something. But now
Yeah.
I have what I need to be able to,
Yeah.
very little am I scared of. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. Do you have anything for families, or is it just the professionals?
I have things that I can help with families too. Sometimes especially when families have questions about how to navigate certain situations, or from like the leadership perspective of someone after the fact, I have done certain seminars that are similar. What sorts of questions to ask. I have less of those situations, but I still do them nevertheless. But I have talked with some families on smaller group settings if they've wanted to dig a little bit deeper into understanding the senior living industry and its functionality.
I don't think that families per se want to do a whole educational based seminar because they
Yeah.
have to do it once or twice, and they
Yeah.
don't want to devote their whole life to it. And so
Mhm.
typically they're looking for someone like us to
They
just
want someone
take
else
the
to
wheel.
do it for them. Yeah, it's been very few and far between. I've had more like one-off questions from family members because they generally by this point want someone else to take it off their plate. So it's the people that are dealing with taking it off the plate that I tend to work with the most.
Yes. Okay, that's all good information. I love
Yeah.
what you're doing. Do you have anything else that you feel like it's important to say to the public, or?
Honestly, if you are a staff member working in senior living, I think that you should constantly be trying to prioritize growth and doing the right thing in your day-to-day, both personally and professionally. If you're struggling with any of that or not quite feeling in alignment with what that could look like, or you feel like you're ready for the next step, I always tell people to try to figure out some form of growth opportunity. And that's where I like to be able to work with people that feel in that weird moment of, I want to grow, I want my community to be better, but I don't know what that looks like. So lean into that discomfort. That's where you're going to see the most growth. Don't just go with the status quo, because this is what senior living has always done. I guess my parting phrase would be just to try to forge your own path, lean into the discomfort, and try to continue growing in the process, and you'll be amazed, how amazing your day-to-day could look like.
Yes, I love it. I love it so much. And if anybody wants to have you come in and do some training, please reach out to her.
Yeah.
We'll have her information in the comments.
Yeah, I have a website, and then I'll make sure, and I'm on LinkedIn all the time too. They can always find me on LinkedIn.
Oh, perfect. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate
Thanks for having me on
it.
today. I had a great time.
Yes, this is great. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk soon. Bye, Liz.
Bye-bye.